All right, everybody ready? I will call to order the April 16th City Council meeting. Will you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Jackie, will you please call the roll?
Yes. Mayor Evans?
Here.
Vice Mayor Parrish?
Here.
Mr. Velardo?
Here.
Mr. Price?
Here.
Mr. Thompson?
Here.
Ms. Cooper?
Here.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Here. All right, our first item of business is a presentation, which is a swearing in of a new officer, Cameron Ferguson. So Chief Mills, we love these nights. And family, feel free to come up here and take pictures. If you want to take pictures, you're welcome to.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm pleased to introduce our newest officer, Cameron Ferguson.
Right up here.
Cameron graduated from Little Miami High School in 2014 and attended the University of Cincinnati. In 2019, he enrolled in the Greene County Police Academy. After graduating in 2020, he was hired by the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office, where he served in the Justice Center for 3 years. He's joined tonight by his parents, grandparents, his uncle, his sister, his brother-in-law, and even his year-old nephew, Colt. A career in public safety requires a serious commitment from both the public servant as well as their family. So I'm glad to see that Cameron has a strong support system. Tonight is the culmination of a process that began in August. The selection process has many aspects. There is a reason for that. We are very selective about who we let wear the uniform of a Milford police officer. Tonight, you are officially indoctrinated and have earned the right to wear the badge of a Milford police officer, a department with a heritage that extends back to the 1800s. The first police badges were a coat of arms worn by knights. The coat of arms identified the knight and his allegiance to chivalry and his royal leaders. Police officers swear to protect and serve, the same as knights from the medieval era were also often sworn in and asked to protect the weak, defenseless, helpless, and fight for the general welfare of all. Tonight, the badge is new and shiny. Over the years, it will acquire scratches and scuffs, but Cameron, it's your responsibility to ensure that it remains untarnished. For when an officer tarnishes his or her badge, they tarnish the badge of every officer, including those who have paid the ultimate sacrifice. In addition to our oath of office, which I administered yesterday, every Milford police officer is required to take the IACP's oath of honor. It's now time for you to take that solemn pledge with me. Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. On my honor.
On my honor.
I will never betray my badge.
I will never betray my badge.
My integrity, my character,
My integrity, my character,
or the public trust.
or the public trust.
I will treat all individuals with dignity and respect,
I will treat all individuals with integrity and respect,
and ensure that my actions are dedicated
to ensure that my actions are dedicated
to ensuring the safety of my community
to ensure the safety of my community
and the preservation of human life.
and the preservation of human life.
I will always have the courage to hold myself
I will always have the courage to hold myself
and others accountable for our actions.
and others accountable for my actions.
I will always uphold the Constitution,
I will always uphold the Constitution,
my community, and the agency I serve.
my community, and the agency I serve.
Very good. Congratulations. It's now my pleasure to present you with the Milford Police Badge. The badge is to be worn over the heart for 2 reasons. 1, to ever remind you of your pledge to protect, and 2, because the left arm was the arm that often held the shield, protecting the heart and leaving the dominant hand to fight with a weapon. Remember, the name on your badge represents who you serve. The name on your nameplate represents who raised you. It's your responsibility to represent both with honor and integrity. Cameron has chosen, wisely I might add, to have his mother, Karen, pin his badge on him tonight.
him or not? So you can poke him if you want something.
And I'm a nurse.
Next, I'd like to present you with our challenge coin. There are varying tales about the origin of challenge coins. Some say it dates back to the Roman Empire. Others credit a young fighter pilot from the First World War. For us, it's a symbol of honor and a constant reminder that we are doing something worthwhile. On the front, it proudly displays the core values that every officer is committed to living by. And on the back, you'll find our motto, am I doing the right thing at the right time, in the right way, and for the right reason? You are to carry the coin with you at all times and are permitted, in certain situations, to give it to a citizen who exemplifies our core values. Now in a handshake. In closing, remember that I too have stood where you stand, as well as the other officers, everyone here, in front of family, friends, members of the Milford Police Department, city council members, and residents of our community as we swore our oath. I know that tonight you feel the same immense pride and honor and sense of accomplishment, as well as the awesome responsibility that is bestowed upon you. This is my charge to you. Every time you place that badge on your chest for the rest of your career, I hope you'll reflect on the feelings you have tonight and remember one of my favorite quotes. If you do this job properly, there is nothing nobler you will do with your life. Welcome to the team. Sign your oath, and then if you want to say a few words.
Because if I go pretty long, I'm probably going to cry. But just wanted to give a thanks to everybody for giving me this opportunity. I come in with very little experience, but Chief Mills and Chief Mahan, they both believed in me and trusted me with this, and I'm going to make the best of this opportunity, and I thank all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome to Milford. We're glad to have you here. And you all are free to leave and celebrate. You don't have to stay.
Thank you.
All right, that that takes us to proceedings. Do we have a motion to approve the council meeting proceedings from April 2nd?
So moved.
Second?
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
And that takes us to correspondence. Jackie?
We have correspondence from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, a new permit type for Milford Rancho 20 LLC, doing business as El Rancho Grande, 315 Rivers Edge Drive, Milford, Ohio, 45150. Do we need to have a hearing?
I make a motion to do nothing.
Second.
Thank you.
My favorite motion.
And second was Mr. Parrish. Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Thank you.
And that takes us to financial statements. Do I have a motion to receive the March 20 financial report? Second?
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
All right, and that takes us to public comments. But we are going to have a second public comments during our special meeting on the sound ordinance. So if you're here to speak on the sound ordinance, you might want to wait just a minute. But it looks like we have Mike Brown from Area Development signed up to speak. Yep. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead. Oh, okay.
Good evening, everybody.
you please
My
state-
name
oh, sorry.
is JD Gallagher, and I am here today for one reason only, and that is to raise awareness and help my community in something that I'm very passionate about. I'm sure you are all aware of all of the traffic problems that exist in our city, but one that has plagued me over the last few years, and like the last few weeks that I've heard recently and frequently, is the trouble of people crossing the roads in the crosswalk. I know I've reached out to a few of you already, but I also have just heard from people other than myself that there are problems that they are facing, and I just wanted to make you aware of those. And I've actually looked into a few solutions, and I know you guys have tackled it and have talked about it before, but I just wanted to raise a few points that I found throughout my process of researching. Firstly, has the city looked into reclassifying Main Street into a different type of road where you could, for instance, put in a different speed limit by applying through the Ohio Department of Transportation reclassification, just to lower that speed limit a little bit more. Secondly, I have talked to numerous business owners on Main Street, and the one thing that I kept hearing was like those flashing light buttons that you hit as you cross the street. I know that has been very successful in front of St. Andrew recently, as they have had it for a little bit, and traffic stops when pedestrians went across. So I feel like that would be something beneficial that maybe you all could look into. And finally, I just wanted to know, since Columbia got all those speed tables in recently, if City Council was or has planned on looking into potentially installing them, not like through all of the crosswalks on Main Street, but particularly Mill and Main Street, right as that corner comes and curves, and Main Street and Ray Street, which is like right out down the hill, just to like indicate that the speed is actually lower than people think it is. Because a lot of people, I've noticed as somebody who works down there and has a pretty big window as to see what's out there, people just fly past all the time, and they aren't really paying attention. So I was wondering, it's more of a request really, if City Council could please look into the lights that I described in my second point, because I feel like even if we can't lower the speed limit on the street, at least there will be like a visual indicator to people that they should slow down. And has City Council looked into making sure that the sidewalks on Main Street are ADA compliant? Because I know a lot of those ramps for the crosswalks have to meet certain criteria in order to comply with ADA. So I was wondering if the city has sent somebody out to survey the sidewalks and the crosswalks recently. And that's all I have. My name is JD. It was nice to speak to you guys, and I wait to see what you guys do. Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Thanks for all your suggestions. Anybody have any thoughts or comments on that?
No, but I know we
Yeah.
just talked about it a little bit at our public services meeting.
I feel like both ends we have the stoplights, but it's kind of that middle part
Yeah,
too.
we've looked at the
where you're
lights
crossing.
in the last 15 years, we've checked off, you know, and looked at. I think that's how we actually got the simplest solution was the divider or that little
Stick.
stance in
Yeah,
the middle
yeah.
that everyone loves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody runs into
Yeah.
it.
And
But as far as the
better
ADA
than a
compliant,
person.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Better than a
When we redid the sidewalk, we put in all the ADA compliant ramps, I believe, at about.
Downtown?
Yeah,
I wasn't here for that project.
yeah.
I can't speak for that.
I'm pretty sure that they were. That's the nubbed, you know, the rays, so. But I know we've, Kim and I, we talked about that at our last council. It's certainly something that we should revisit.
Into revisit.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna read to do. We have them take a look at that while they're doing that research as well.
I do think it's interesting how many people come in my and say, I got a speed. I was only going 5 miles over the speed limit. How fast were you going? 40. I'm like, it's 25. It's amazing to me how many people don't realize where the speed limit
Right.
changes.
And maybe the maybe we could set up the speed flashing cameras down there like some this summer it's got a lot more people out walking to help patrol that.
Yeah, because I think pretty much within the city,
Yeah,
it's
it's
all
the 2025.
25.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Except for Route 50
yeah, except for, yeah, if you're going out,
or and
out towards
28.
Target or,
Yeah.
yeah, but otherwise, yeah. It is not still 45 from 126
Correct.
into downtown.
Yes, or 28 down
Yeah,
past
yeah.
St. Andrews,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, any other public comments not referring to the sound ordinance? All right, then we will, I guess, open our special committee of the whole meeting. So I will call that meeting to order. Jackie, we call the roll again, please.
Mayor Evans,
Here.
Vice Mayor Parrish,
Here.
Mr. Velardo,
Here.
Mr. Price,
Here.
Mr. Thompson,
Here.
Ms. Cooper,
Here.
Ms. Chamberlain.
Here.
And we do have public comments first about the sound ordinance. If you come to the podium, will you please state your name and address for the record? Welcome.
Hi, my name's Mary Kipp, 415 Mill. I've been here before. Again, 6 months ago, we first approached planning and council asking for an amendment to the River District Sound Ordinance. It seems to me it would have been a much simpler thing to deal with, but now we're in the midst of the season, and I see even on their website they are playing music outdoors as often as they can. I've read a lot about noise. I've read that sound above 70 decibels is considered a nuisance. Many of the ordinances mention that they're there to ensure the residents their peace and quiet. I know that's not possible at all times. Simple truth is that the Milford River District needs an effective noise ordinance with a decibel level that is acceptable. I'm a little confused about one thing in discussions with people on council at times, and I was told, I'm sorry?
Can you speak more in the microphone? Sorry.
I was told that back when there was an issue with the brewery, there were discussions, and one comment from several people was that they were told they could not play music outdoors. And I guess I'm wondering why that does not apply in this situation. That's pretty much really all I have to say, again.
All right, thank
And
you.
thank you.
Thank you for comments. Anybody else like to make a comment? All right, that takes us to council discussion, I guess. So, thoughts? I know Kim, you've been doing some research. Do you
Yeah,
want to share?
It appears to me in like Loveland's noise ordinance that a lot of, just as Ms. Kipp had said, a lot of them are using the decibel. Oh, they're using the decibel readers. That just seems to be consistent with Cincinnati, with Loveland, and then also the different places that Brian had sent as well, too, so.
Did any of those say what their level is? They all
70.
vary, 70?
70.
So that's a standard.
70 does seem to be the standard.
Right.
For
And I know, like, Planning Commission is who did not let the brewery do live music on their rooftop. So when the other case came through, I guess Planning Commission either did not think about live
I've
music
asked
up
that.
there or didn't.
Do we know that for a fact?
I mean, I don't remember. I mean, I've been on Planning Commission. I don't remember even any discussion of it. I don't know if we just didn't think about it. I don't know.
From just, and this isn't like I couldn't be a witness in a court of law because it's hearsay, but when I was talking to Ms. Seltzer about this, she had said, when she went back and looked in notes, that at the time when the distillery put in their plans, the idea was an occasional, we may have outside music or whatever occasionally, but
Is there, Mr. Pacheco, this might be a question for you. Is there any way to now add a stipulation to their rooftop music? Like just them, since that's what's right now causing the issue, or no? So was it in the original Planning Commission
Not
request?
at this point, after, at least with respect to the planning commission, on permission to do what they did there. That doesn't mean you can't legislate it.
Okay.
for a particular area. But the kind of the planning commission form has come and gone. It's now, fortunately or unfortunately, in your hands.
Right.
And it would seem to me that, I mean, we should be looking at this as a whole. What is to come in the future, in any future development, not just for one individual. It's the whole downtown, or really anywhere in our, city. What does noise look like in our city? Because development's not going away.
Right.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, but with the distillery, we were very, did our due diligence as far as timing, as far as time as opposed to decibel, because of the enhanced issues with the police having to control decibels.
Right, that's the
You
tricky
know,
part,
so-
measuring,
but
where do you
Brian,
measure
I'll
from?
defer that to you from other communities who have decibels. Do our police officers carry sound meters then, or?
And at what distance, I mean,
That's
is
okay,
there
where do you
like a
measure from?
standard, where do you measure from? Because
Yeah.
especially downtown, I mean, I live on Cleveland, I can hear the music in the distillery, but no place else.
Right.
Just because the height of
That's
the
what it-
roof
yeah.
is absolutely parallel with the streets,
If you measure down on the ground, like on Main Street, it's gonna be different than up on High Street.
or Mill,
Yeah,
or
yeah,
High, or, yeah, just, and at what distance? Like, if you're on the deck, it's gonna be really loud.
So you're all raising great points. This is a bit like a Jenga game, and you
Yeah.
pull one piece and other pieces come down. So to kind of consolidate the comments that I'm hearing, if you're talking about decibels, a decibel restriction, typically, well, not typically, it can be handled by the police, but it can also be handled by code enforcement. But you're gonna need somebody who's certified in the, I don't even remember what the decibel meter's called. I'll call it decibel meter. It's called something, I think it's decimeter, but whatever it is. And so somebody's gotta be authorized and able to do that. Typically, they're measured at the property line, at least as defined.
Up high or down low, yeah.
Well, that's another good point,
Yeah.
right.
Right,
The
to be on
property
the
line
street.
being on the, to your
Ground,
point,
yeah.
on the ground.
Yeah, okay.
So, so that's one issue. To Mr. Vallarta's point, which I think I answered, and that is, it depends. Some have the police officers doing it, some have their code enforcement people doing it. That's, I think, within your reasonable.
Typically, the only reason I said, typically our code enforcement doesn't work at 10 o'clock at night.
That's the point.
Okay, yeah,
That's
that's the
correct.
problem.
That's exactly,
I don't
that's,
think Christine wants to drive your.
that's exactly the
Yeah.
point. And,
And I don't
Well,
think
what-
Michael wants to be that person.
What about like the distillery has right inside their door a meter that measures the sound?
Right.
Can the business have to put one up just to, it doesn't have to be somebody outside measuring?
so I think it would, I think for proof problems and for enforcement problems, I would, my preference would be, again, for enforcement, it'd have to be at the property line, because just because noise is there doesn't mean, I mean, even the case law that, let me back up. You don't even need a noise ordinance, because it can be disorderly conduct under the general Ohio statute and under our Milford Code of Ordinances. Now, as soon as I say that, Chief Mills wants to drag me under and make a disorderly conduct noise with me.
Yeah.
Because there's no standard to it, it just says unreasonable noise, and the case law says what's unreasonable noise, and it's basically, if somebody says it's unreasonable and somebody says it's reasonable, then you fight about that in court. So you can see why you don't want the officers involved, or why those are hard provisions to have, so you'd be a little more specific. But the point is that I do think that it's gotta be measured. In my opinion, the more objective you can quantify it, the easier it is to follow, the easier it is to enforce, the easier it is to conform your conduct to, which are all the points of the criminal law. And that is, we tell somebody what's lawful or what's not lawful, as the case may be. They understand they can conform their conduct, and then people can abide by it. It's also easier, in my opinion, to enforce, to say, well, at the property line, it's 69. Well, it's still too loud to me. It's like, well, it's 69. There's no violation. Versus, this doesn't sound good to me, I don't like it, versus, this is just fine with me. To your point earlier about, what about the meter from inside? Inside, to me, is not the issue. The issue is at the property line where somebody else is gonna hear it. That, and that's kind of the case law, too. So, again, you have any number of options. You know, the hours are easy, too, right? In terms of hours. If they're doing it at 11:01, that's a violation.
It's
Doesn't matter how.
11 right now,
Yeah,
correct?
yes.
Except for on Friday and
On Friday and
Yes,
Saturday,
It
yeah.
goes to midnight.
And then it's midnight, correct.
Have we had any conversation with,
That's, I was gonna ask
Yeah.
the same.
with the distillery? Are
I
they
don't think
aware?
formally.
I've had conversations with managers in the past,
Yeah.
but it's worked and then it goes away quickly.
Sure,
as
but
that.
I would like to think no matter what we decide, that we sit down and have ahead of time, so that they know that, by the way, they're not gonna be blindsided that, whenever we
Right.
resolve this. And I do believe there is a resolve.
It'd be nice to have that
You know.
conversation first and not have
Yeah.
to go to all of this.
Right.
But,
But I don't think I don't think this business in particular is violating our noise ordinance as it is. My understanding is when the time is up, they're
right,
finished.
yeah,
So they're complying with what we
Right.
have right now. I mean,
Well, and I think maybe that's something we might, from an outside, if you're an indoor, you can be this, but if you're outdoor, it should be,
yeah, that would be
Yeah.
easier,
Yeah.
unless you apply for a special permit.
But like we talked about last week or 2 weeks ago, what about the garage doors being up?
Yeah.
Right.
To me,
What's-
that's essentially outside, right? Padrinos or
Any other, yeah,
any of the other places.
Yeah.
And with the decibels, I would imagine that if you're doing the property line, the corner of Mill where One Main Gallery would be louder than in front of Nation's Kitchen. I mean, when I was on Planning Commission, if we had complaints about noise from the brewery, it was always from Indian Hill.
Right.
Because it went the other direction.
right,
Right, and the band where they sit up on the roof, they point to our street.
right,
Because I had suggested
yeah, but some point the other
casually,
way.
just going, what if you turned the other way, or you tried to create some sound barrier that would help buffer that?
I think that's a very good point that Mr. Price brings up, that sometimes noise like water will do what it does, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it's logical. Water's a little more logical than noise, but, so that's another problem too, that, what you anticipate from a logical standpoint isn't necessarily how the science works with the noise, to your
Right.
point.
I think that's why we picked time originally.
And that makes sense. I get that. What I'm trying to do is conform council's wishes. And again, as I said last time, you guys are in a tough spot because you've got to legislate between the constitutional rights of the property owner not to have unreasonable noise, and you got to balance the constitutional rights of the people to use their property that don't offend somebody else in terms of unreasonable noise. So you really have to strike a balance.
Chief Mills, oh, sorry. So Chief Mills, can you come up real quick, sorry? Since Loveland has this in place, do you think you could reach out to their chief and just get some information on how they handle it all?
I can. I did that a few years ago under a previous administration, and the chief strongly encouraged me to avoid the sound meters for pretty much the examples that Mr. Pacheco
That's what I
mentioned.
thought.
If I certify one officer per shift, there's no guarantee that officer is going to be working when it happens, or he's not going to be tied up, or she. Determining property lines, 10 o'clock at night, it's not impossible, but it's not easily accessible either. So, but I understand the position that council is in, and we'll make anything work that we need to.
I guess let's maybe see how they're doing it, how many issues they've had, or,
Sure, I can do that.
If you could politely just inquire maybe a little bit about how much that costs their department
Sure.
annually for certifications and equipment,
I can.
be great.
I'd be happy to do that.
do you think we could schedule a meeting with the distillery? Like, or you could, or you and I could or something, and
Sure.
just have a conversation?
Could it also be, we restrict amplified music on elevated surfaces? Such as
You-
balconies, decks, rooftops?
How elevated? Because if,
Well, I
mean,
I understand.
you
that
know
would
what I
have to
mean? Like,
be-
we get back into the Jenga game of what does
Story
elevated
elevated.
actually mean,
Yeah.
right? Like,
We would have to be very, I would be, the more specific we could be,
Yeah.
the better, to Mr. Price's point and to your point, and Ms. Chamberlain and Mr. Parrish's points, that the more defined it is, the better.
Because it seems to me it's the elevation.
Right.
Also, that is a problem, too. Because it's up and it's loud and it's,
But there's nothing to break the sound. I mean,
Right.
I have clients that live on Wallace,
yeah.
and when 20 Bricks did acoustic music on the deck on Friday nights, they could hear the acoustic music where they lived,
Yeah.
Okay.
just because of
Okay.
just
Yeah.
the way
Okay.
it, the way it went
Just
on.
it traveled up the.
Yeah.
So maybe then we'll get some information from Chief Mills, if Michael and I maybe meets with the distillery, and then maybe take this back to committee?
And you might, well, I was just gonna say, have you tried to reach out to the stool riders who own it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
that's what-
as opposed to a manager where you
Yeah,
might
that's what,
get-
yeah, that's what I'm thinking, because I've had casual conversations also with the manager, and, yeah.
Right,
The other thing too,
changing all those people.
I'm sorry, Mr. Price, I'm sorry.
Right.
The other thing too is, I mean, there are noise consultants that, I'm not suggesting that the city spend money on noise consultants, but if that is something the city wants to think about, there are noise consultants that are experts on these issues of where is it, how's it coming down off the not the mountaintop, but off the balconies, and what areas and how high, and you get some expertise, but that really gets granular, which, and may or may not be something, but there are those issues too. But again, this isn't done just us kind of writing it down,
Right.
crossing out one or two words in the
Right.
ordinance and off we go, because if we want to do this, we want to do it the right way, so we have to do it 5 times.
Right. Well, like Mr. Price said, even like with the barriers, maybe in a meeting with the distillery, maybe they would buy some kind
Yeah, right.
of barriers they could put up
There-
on music nights, or something.
Try
to-
changing the direction.
Their last Saturday night, icing the river, so they, yeah,
Band.
yeah. I was there early. I saw their first. But yeah, I personally went up there because I wanted to see where they set up, since we were talking about, and they were facing, but I imagine it's still amplified up to your neighborhood too, so.
So you raise another point about whether you hire experts about baffling or curtains or those kinds of devices that you could look at as part of the solution too.
Who was the person at the committee meeting that works with the water department that said that they had complaints about noise from like one of the water
Oh,
plants?
Joe
that was
Castile.
Joe Castile.
Because he said that they did that there and it was relatively easy and it was helpful.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I think that there are a lot of ideas being thrown around. I don't want us to go too far down a rabbit hole of baffling and curtains and barriers. I also don't want to put undue strain on our police department, right? But if everybody else around us has a decibel rated level, instead of legislating earlier and making our businesses maybe lose money on a busy night because they have to shut music down at 10 p.m. instead of 11, I think that let's keep looking at those ideas, but let's
Right.
also go down this decibel road, because I think, in my head, this is probably the most likely place we're gonna end up. But that, again, is just me. But I also don't wanna just keep kicking this around and back to committee and back to council. I want to actually, let's get some traction and get moving forward on this instead of keep going back and forth, right? I don't want another summer season to pass with frustrated residents and us really just not really knowing what to do. So
Right.
I think the idea of getting information from Loveland is great. I think talking to the distillery is great, but I think, let's go, let's.
Would be curious I'd be curious what the feedback would be from the neighborhoods if somebody could even just once or twice clock it at 69, right? Because you may still feel like it's too loud. I have no idea of
Yeah.
what that is compared to, is it 100 now? I mean, I don't have any
True.
idea.
So my experience, again, litigating these and defending, or in some instances, is that that's an excellent point. That just like speeding, when people are in a neighborhood and they think people are going 50 miles an hour, and then you clock it and it's 28 because your perception.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there is some of that, and I'm not minimizing anybody's complaints. That's not my point. My point is we have to legislate it, so that's what we have to be concerned about as well. And again, I don't want that, I'm not minimizing anybody's complaints. I'm simply saying we have to legislate something that's also lawful as well.
And if doing all of that, and it doesn't sound like it's an easy thing, if it doesn't solve the problem,
Right. Right.
you're
Back to square
back to square one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Would you like to speak? Go ahead.
Back on, Donna Lucky, 910 Wallace. Back on April 3rd, the distillery posted this long Facebook post about things that they're changing and things they're looking forward to. And now I lost it. Anyway, I replied and said, have you given any thought to the sound ordinance discussed at the Milford City Council meetings. And their reply was, we haven't heard anything from the police or the city council regarding there being any problems.
So, I mean, we haven't, I know I haven't spoke to the owners, I've spoke to managers, which maybe didn't relay the message up the chain, so.
Just a
Yeah.
thought.
Yeah,
I think I've only been upstairs once.
Yeah.
Again, facing the music elsewhere, or moving the band inside and put more tables outside.
Yeah.
You know, that would confine the sound to at least inside the building. And sure, we hear it
Right.
up on the top of Wallace.
yeah.
Some bands are just a lot better than others.
You're welcome. Go ahead, Mary, it's fine.
It frustrates me to hear people talk like we're just being annoying and.
Oh, no, we're not at all, we understand your
And if you
concern.
turn it off at 10 instead of 11, the evening has already been ruined. And I don't know that you can't appreciate what it's like to sit in your backyard and be bombarded some nights. And the issue too is that it's not just music, it's screaming and yelling into the mics and whenever. It's not a controlled, subtle sound, it is noise.
Right.
So, again, it would be nice to be able to go out and sit in your backyard and relax.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other thoughts or comments? So we'll move forward with Chief Mills, and we'll move forward with the meeting.
And rediscuss it like
And
at the
rediscuss it at
next
committee
council
then.
meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah,
discuss
based
it
on
have
what we
council.
find. And so Chief Mills, maybe even we could borrow one of their meters or have them come measure some night, like you said, just to see where we are, like how far from 70 we are.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
That's a
Yeah.
great idea.
Yeah.
Great
All
idea.
right, thank you. All right, so do I have a motion to close the committee of the whole meeting?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Evans,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Parrish,
Yes.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain.
Yes,
All right, that takes us to standing committee reports, community development, Mrs. Cooper.
Thank you, Mayor. Community Development met on April 9th. I called the meeting to order at 5 PM. Present were myself, Brad Price, and Christopher Parrish. Staff was City Manager Michael Doss and Executive Assistant Jackie Bain. No visitors at that time. Proceedings, Mr. Price made a motion to approve the minutes from the March 14th, 2024 Community Development meeting, and all said yes. Discussion, water fountain replacement quotes for various parks. Mr. Doss discussed how this information came out of the city's Park and Recreation Commission. The commission conducted an assessment of the parks, and one of the items that they determined was that they wanted to see some of the drinking fountains updated. This information was discussed at our budget session, and we put this in our capital funds for our Parks and Rec and appropriated $40,000 for fountains. Mr. Doss reviewed two quotes. One was from Pro Drinking Fountains, quoted at $18,517, and Murdoch Super Secure, quoted at $18,411.11. Both companies use Murdoch parts. Our water department highly recommends Murdoch, products since they have used them in the past. The drinking fountains will be consistent with what we have installed at 5 Points Landing Park. The fountains will also include a pit fountain. The fountains will be blue and will be installed by our employees in the following parks: Garfield, Riverside 1, and Memorial. These fountains come in significantly under budget. The committee agreed to recommend that the law director draft an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase 3 drinking fountains from Murdoch Super Secure in the amount of $18,411.11.
Second.
Ms. Evans,
Yes.
Mr. Parrish,
Yes.
Mr. Velardo,
Yes.
Mr. Price,
Yes.
Mr. Thompson,
Yes.
Ms. Cooper,
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain.
yes,
Next, we discussed security cameras for 5 Points Landing Park. City Manager Michael Doss reviewed the committee with the committee a quote from Sectron Security Systems. We currently work with Sectron for security cameras at City Hall. The quote is for 6 cameras to be placed at the 5 Point Landing Park. This item was not budgeted for the amount of the money that we have put into the park, particularly the furniture. We have already had some individuals scraping into the concrete and hanging from our electrical box fixtures on our decorative lighting. By having the cameras there in place, we hope to deter or catch those individuals if they do any property damage or theft to our park. The quote from Sectron is for $10,624. The committee agreed to recommend that the law director draft an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase security cameras for 5 Points Landing Park from Sectron in the amount of $10,624.
Second.
Real quick question. Do we have cameras in any of our other parks yet?
No, we do
did?
not.
Okay. There wasn't I mean, it would be nice to be able to use this as the stepping stone to enhance that. And then the cameras, are they tied into our sector, like the police can monitor, or who monitors that?
Yeah, there'll be capabilities for both staff and police department.
Okay. Yeah, because I know once upon a time there were cameras in all the parks, but they just weren't maintained. So that would certainly be something that I think we would consider. I know communities around here have, gone to that great length, but it's to your
Especially
point.
maybe Riverside because of the pavilion.
Right, yeah. Because I know there's been graffiti on other, and just, hey, what goes on in the parks
Right,
sometimes.
yeah, good
So
idea.
anyway, So,
Mr. Velardo?
yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes,
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Next, we discussed 5 Point Landings Park flagpole quote. Mr. Doss discussed that Ms. Cooper, had inquired about a flagpole and flag at 5 Points Landing Park. The committee reviewed quotes from the flagpoleclimber.com/flagsusa, where we have purchased flagpoles and flags in the past. Each of the quotes was under $7,500. This does not require a committee to approve, but since we brought it up, Mr. Doss had reported about the polls. Mr. Doss was to give the committee an idea of what we were looking at. There are 3 types of poles, and the Monarch is the style that we are going to purchase. It is similar to the one we have at Memorial Park. I also did mention that someone had told me that Milford Schools had secured the flagpole that was at Milford Main School site and checked on that, and there is no such thing. They did not save it, I don't know, but it is not available, so.
That was a really big.
Yeah, that was. There being no further business, the meeting adjourned at 5:19 with a motion from Mr. Parrish. All said yes.
All right, thank you for your report. That takes us to Public Services, Ms. Chamberlain.
yes, Mayor. This is the Public Service Committee meeting, which I called to order at 4 o'clock on April 12th, 2024. Present were myself and Ralph Velardo. City staff, City Manager Michael Doss, and Executive Assistant Jackie Bain. Visitors were Wallace Avenue residents, including Larry Lucky, Donna Lucky, Daryl Isaacs, Matt Davis, Michelle Davis, Steve Ciaccio, Danielle Bischoff, Tom Fremont, Brooke Shanks, Kelly Isaac Close, and Ms. Teresa Wills. We appointed a committee chair. Mr. Velardo made a motion to appoint me, Ms. Chamberlain, as the committee chairperson. All said yes. The approval of the October 12th, 2023 Public Service Committee minutes, I made a motion to make these minutes a public record as presented due to the abstention of previous council members. Mr. Velardo seconded the motion. We discussed the filter media replacement bids. Mr. Doss explained that every 3 to 4 years, we replace the filter media at our water plant. We bid this out through competitive bidding. We only received 1 bid. That bid was from National Water Services LLC in the amount of $71,717. In the 2024 budget, we budgeted for $92,000 for filter media. It is a difference of less than $20,283. We recommend that we accept National Water Services LLC bid. The committee agreed to recommend that the law director draft an ordinance authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with National Water Services LLC in the amount of $71,717 for filter media replacement.
Second.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
The next item was discussion of speed bump request for Wallace Avenue. Mr. Doss mentioned that he received an email on April 5th from resident Danielle Bischoff asking the city to consider providing and installing a couple of speed bumps on Wallace Avenue. Many of the residents who live on Wallace Avenue were in attendance and had the opportunity to speak about their concerns with the committee. Mr. Doss discussed the differences between speed tables, speed cushions, speed humps, and speed bumps for the location. Mr. Velardo discussed that in the past, council commissioned a traffic study which recommended speed humps in the locations of Forest Avenue and Center Street. He would like to see from a consistent standpoint to get a traffic study done. We can then get a recommendation what the most appropriate traffic calming situation is. In the interim, we can enhance enforcement with the police department and get a sign up. Mr. Doss asked if the committee was asking for an all-out traffic study or just an analysis from the city engineer of this particular request. Mr. Velardo would like to see a baseline consistency of what we have done previously. That way we have data to validate what we have done. In the meantime, we will speak to Chief Mills and get his opinion on this and possibly placing a speed sign there. Mr. Doss stated that whatever comes out of the study, and if it has been determined and valid to place a speed hump there, he would advocate for us possibly placing speed hump mats there as a temporary solution because of the work that will be done on Wallace Avenue regarding the new water tower project. Once paving is completed there, a more permanent solution could be placed there if that is the direction that the committee council would like to go. Ms. Chamberlain commented on to us overall, commented on us all to overall some type of outreach for drivers to pay attention since we have so many pedestrians in our city walking and bikers at all hours. We want it to be a safe city since we all share the roadway. Mr. Doss will speak to Chief Mills about a speed signal sign, and he will also get with the city engineer group to have them take a look at the speeding issues on Wallace Avenue. Mr. Doss will follow up with Danielle Bischoff within a month to bring some updated information back to the committee, and hopefully Chief Mills can place a speeding sign on Wallace in the meantime. We also had Teresa Will on High Street added a comment at the meeting. Ms. Will brought to the committee's attention that it has come to her attention that the Red Knot developer has plans to build a duplex next door. She was asking what is permitted or zoned at that location. Mr. Velardo shared a picture that Ms. Will had shared with him regarding their recent proposal. Mr. Doss stated that they are building 3 houses at the site and believes it is permitted through zoning 4 duplexes on that site. Mr. Doss will discuss with Christine Seltzer, Planning and Community Development Coordinator for the City of Milford, and find out if that is correct. Mr. Velardo mentioned proposing to the Safety Services Committee a suggestion to participate using a flock system of cameras throughout the city. They capture images of license plates as vehicles pass in front of them and send instant alerts to law enforcement officers. The images are stored for 30 days and then purged from the system. There being no further business, the meeting adjourned at 4:38 with a motion from Mr. Velardo, seconded by myself.
All right, thank you for that report. That takes us to Mr. Doss and the city manager report.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I want to let you know Duke is back at it again. Duke advised the city that they have intent to replace several gas lines and service lines throughout Milford. Wow. There are several phases of line replacement that will schedule, and that'll start in October of this year and will go through 2026. The entire city, when this is over, will have gas lines replaced. They're 60 years old in a lot of cases. The first phase will encompass East Milford from Short Lila Avenue all the way to Miami and all streets in between. Just from council's perspective, over the next couple years, as we look at this project and then evolving through these phases, we're certainly going to have to go through and address our future paving and cross-reference that with our pavement management study, because we certainly don't want to pave a street just to have Duke come back in and tear it up. So anyway, we'll be working with Duke on that project. I anticipate that will go well. Quite honestly, our communication with them, even though it was a very long, arduous process that they did a few years ago, communication with them went very well. I anticipate that this will be no different. Jim Terrell Park Canoe and Kayak Launch, after a few years, finally, construction on the launch is scheduled to commence next week. That, of course, is weather permitting and also depending on the river levels. 5 Points Landing Park Farmers Market. The city has filled 6 spots on the market last week. Let the public know that we're still accepting applications. They're available on the city's website. The market, again, will start and open Saturday, Memorial Day weekend from 8 a.m. to noon. We're still looking for vendors, any vendors that are interested in produce, fruits and vegetables, eggs, cheese, dairy, meat, and poultry. Please reach out to us. We'll walk you through the application process and get you going. Economic development opportunity. There is a developer that's interested in constructing a building on Chamber Drive, located on the vacant lot near the roundabout. This potential development would focus on hospitality. As we get more information on that, if that project evolves, we'll certainly let council and the public know about that. The Ohio Capital Budget request, the city has submitted a request for funding in the amount of $1,750,000 for Phase 2 of the 5 Points Landing Park. This is a community center, which is, again, the second phase, which would be built off of the restroom facilities. There is funding within the capital budget, and about $700 million, actually. We ranked in the top 10 in Claremont County. We are talking to Senator Johnson. The Senate is working their way through this process. We have our advocates over in Columbus also assisting with us, so we'll give it a try, see if we're successful. There's no standing committee meetings at this time, but if you'll recall an email I sent earlier in the day, we will have to have a safety services meeting to discuss a potential upcoming fire levy. Other than that, there may be another committee depending on if our department heads need one or not. Reminder, this Saturday, April the 20th, is our Community Shred Day. That will be hosted here at City Hall in our parking lot for Milford residents. That's from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., again, this Saturday. April 24th is the CIC's annual board meeting. That is at 4 o'clock. April 7th is our next regularly scheduled city council meeting at 7. We have a tree commission meeting May 8th at 2, and then a Parks and Rec meeting May 8th also at 6 o'clock.
Great, thank you for your report. That takes us to police, Chief Mills.
Thank you, Mayor. Before I read my March monthly report, I did want to address the speed sign on Wallace. We did get that put up, I think, on Monday.
Awesome, thank
Just want to
you.
remind the public, I have about 3 of those, so there's a schedule and a rotation, but yeah, that wasn't a problem to get that over there. So for March, in terms of training, all sworn members reviewed and passed a written examination on our use of deadly force directive and were qualified on our authorized weapons. All members reviewed and passed a test on our anti-bias policing directive and also on a newly updated recruit training directive. Some notable occurrences: Squad 1 responded at the Staybridge Hotel for a theft of a $1,500 promise ring from the lobby restroom. Detective Brown did an outstanding job of locating the suspect in Columbus, obtaining a confession, and recovering the ring for the victim. Squad 2 responded to the Holiday Inn for a welfare check and unfortunately discovered a male deceased from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. The squad provided the spouse and children with clergy support, transportation, and dinner that evening. Squad 2 also responded to the Oakwood Apartments for an armed robbery. The male victim reported being robbed at gunpoint by 2 unknown male subjects after meeting a female on social media site. That case is assigned to our investigative unit. Squad 2 responded to book matters at 6 Main Street after the business received several social media threats for a transgender-based book reading event. The case is assigned to Assistant Chief Mahan, who is working with the FBI. Squad 3 arrested a 14-year-old juvenile at the Oakwood Apartments for intentionally shooting another child with a BB. Squad 4 responded to Speedway for a discharge of firearm inside the business where it appears a male subject dropped his handgun and had an accidental discharge before fleeing in a vehicle. Squad 4 assisted the Ohio State Highway Patrol with a head-on collision on the Milford Parkway. The at-fault operator had to be airlifted to UC Hospital. And Squad 4 also investigated a suspicious vehicle at Walmart where the occupant was charged with having physical control under the influence and possession of drug paraphernalia pending felony drug charges. In lighter news, Officer Eschman conducted several senior visits this month, one of which she provided dinner for. Squad 4 provided a courtesy transport to the drop-in shelter. All Project Lifesaver batteries were exchanged during the month. That's our program that helps us track and locate missing dementia, Alzheimer patients. We conducted a police car tour at the request of Patterson Elementary, and Officer Bogan received a thank you email from a den mother after a Girl Scout PD tour. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much.
Just a correction for District Chief Nichols is up here. Our fearless president of the Parks, or the Tree Commission, advised me that it's May 15th. It's our Tree Commission meeting at 2.
Thank you, Ms. Chan. All right, that takes us to Fire and EMS District.
Good evening. Yeah, you guys should have our report that was submitted. There's nothing really new to report other than this normal operations. You know, runs are staying steady in normal operations.
All right.
Any questions?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that takes us to council comments. Anybody on council?
I attended our JED as a representative for our JED. They have their yearly meetings. We have 7 JEDs now with Union Township. They had 6 of them. It was 6 out of the 7 were able to be held concurrently. The problem is you have to space them. You can't hold all 6 of them at the same time. So it's one after the other. But just that they're all doing very well except for one. And it's not losing money, but it's on old 74. It would be the, I think it's JED number 3 or 4. I don't remember exactly the number. But anyway, it was a steakhouse. It was another nightclub of some sort. Now it's a church, but it's the only one not performing up to standard. But they just asked that their hope and goal is that someday that it will take back off, you know, if it ever gets sold, out of being what it is right now. And then we will hold the 7th one here in a couple weeks. So those are all performing as expected. And I did have a question to Mr. Doss. The update, do you know, was that just going to be an update about the development on Garfield, or I saw that he didn't show up, or the person, do you know?
Area development signed up, I guess, to speak.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, all right. And then did we ever officially adopt the summer schedule for planning purposes? Did we officially?
We did.
No.
We did not?
I thought we did.
Okay,
She, I would,
yeah.
I defer to her.
If Jackie says no, then it's a no.
Objection
That is
sustained.
Can we just do a voice vote on that now?
Yeah.
Okay.
So officially, that we adopt our June, July, and August to go to one meeting a month. And so I get my dates right. I believe
I
we
think we said
decided the 3rd.
Yeah, third.
So it'd be June 18th, July 16th, and August 20th.
So do I have a motion to approve that summer schedule?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
No. I'll be out of town in August. That's the only reason.
Like,
Mr.
wow,
Velardo?
That's it.
Yes.
We'll excuse you
Mr.
from that
Price?
one.
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, any other council comments?
I have one, also kind of in conjunction with the Shred Day, is spring litter cleanup at the City Hall lot at 8 a.m., also on this Saturday, April 20th. You can sign up online. There's a link on the website. So hope to see a lot of people there.
Thank you.
Awesome. I actually have a couple. On April 26th, our Milford Tree Commission, along with Coach Wilkie of the Milford Heat baseball team, he's going to have some of his baseball players here to do a tree planting in celebration of Arbor Day, in which we are having 4 trees planted along Lila and the 5 Point Landing Park, in which are being donated by Evans Landscaping on that day. So that'll be a fun
Nice.
celebration. That's at 3:30 if anybody wants to come
April
out.
The 26th?
26th?
On Friday, the 26th. It'd be great to see everybody there. And also in celebration of Arbor Day and our being a tree city, on May 18th, we are hosting Love Our Land, doing a free class offering at 10 o'clock down at Riverside Park in the pavilion on the benefits of native trees. And so that'll be a class down at Riverside Park. The public's invited to come to. There'll be a walk through the park, how to identify trees, geared pretty much to everybody. Children, bring your kiddos along, and that'll be from 10 to noon on that day.
Do people need to sign up or just show up?
People, we are not having a sign up, just show up. And
Repeat that date one more time.
May 18th, Saturday, 3rd Saturday in May, 10 to noon. Free.
Free.
Benefit of trees.
All right, and any other council comments? All right, that takes us to Mr. Pacheco and ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, Mayor. Ordinance number 24-278, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase 3 water fountains for use at city parks from Murdoch Super Secure. Try that. Murdoch Super Secure at a cost not to exceed $18,411.11. Now therefore be ordained by the Council of the Municipality of Milford, Ohio, Section 1. City Council hereby authorizes the city manager to take all action necessary to purchase 3 water fountains for use at city parks from Murdoch Super Secure at a cost not to exceed $18,411.11. The price quote is attached and fully incorporated by reference under and in accordance with Section 12.03 of the Milford City Charter. Section 2, under and in accordance with Sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only?
Second?
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ordinance number 24-278, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase 3 water fountains for use at city parks from Murdoch Super Secure at a cost not to exceed $18,411.11.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ordinance number 24-279, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase 6 security cameras for use at 5 Points Landing Park from Sectron Security Systems at a cost not to exceed $10,624. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the Municipality of Milford, Ohio, Section 1. City Council hereby authorizes the city manager to take all action necessary to purchase 6 security cameras for use at 5 Points Landing Park from Sectron Security Systems at a cost not to exceed $10,624. The price quote is attached and fully incorporated by reference under and in accordance with Section 12.03 of the Milford City Charter. Section 2, under and in accordance with Sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter, this ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only?
Second?
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ordinance number 24-279, an ordinance authorizing the city manager to purchase 6 security cameras for use at 5 Points Landing Park from Sectron Security Systems at a cost not to exceed $10,624.
Motion to adopt?
Second?
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ordinance number 24-280, an ordinance authorizing let's try that again. Ordinance number 24-280, an ordinance awarding filter media replacement bid to National Water Services LLC and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for such work at a cost not to exceed $71,717. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the Municipality of Milford, Ohio, Section 1. Having solicited bids as required under the charter and having received 1 responsive bid, City Council hereby awards the bid for filter media replacement at the water plant to National Water Services LLC as set forth in the attached document at a cost not to exceed $71,717. In council's judgment, National Water Services LLC's bid offers the best and most responsive price to the city, considering quality, service, price, reputation, and past performances and financial condition. City manager is hereby authorized to enter into a contract with National Water Services LLC to perform such work in accordance with the bid documents at a cost not to exceed $71,717. The bid documents are attached and fully incorporated by reference under and in accordance with Section 12.03 of the Milford City Charter. Section 2, under and in accordance with Sections 12.05 and 12.07 of the Milford City Charter. This ordinance shall become effective immediately upon its passage by City Council.
Motion to suspend the rules and read by title only.
Second?
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Ordinance number 24-280, an ordinance awarding filter media replacement bid to National Water Services LLC and authorizing the city manager to enter into a contract for such work at a cost not to exceed $71,717.
Motion to adopt.
Second?
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
Thank you, Mayor.
Great, thank you. And I don't think we have any old business, so do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Evans?
Yes.
Mr. Parrish?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo?
Yes.
Mr. Price?
Yes.
Mr. Thompson?
Yes.
Ms. Cooper?
Yes.
Ms. Chamberlain?
Yes.
All right, thank you all for attending. If you need something signed that you were here, we can sign.